Good morning, everyone. I'm your favorite, Kunal, the math magician. And today we are going to do the part 2 of linear equations in two variables. So today's agenda is to learn how to make equations. The most important part of mathematics is to form the equations. Solving can be done easily. Anybody can do it. We have systems, we have softwares to solve the equation. But what is the most important part and what makes or checks your intellect is the ability to form equations. So today we are going to focus upon forming equations. Okay. So I have taken up a couple of examples to learn how to solve equations. Let's start. We will only learn how to form equations. We will learn to solve them in my next lecture. Let us take example 1. 8 chairs and 5 tables for a classroom cost 10,500, while 5 chairs and 3 tables cost 6,450. Find the cost of each chair and that of each table. A very simple equation. Remember, we are doing linear equation in two variables. That means we will have to form two equations. Two different equations. Is that okay? So let's say, let the cost of one chair be X rupees. Similarly, let the cost of one table be, is that okay? Now it is very easy to form the equation. The first equation would be case 1. How many chairs? 8. So 8x plus how many tables? 5. So 5y is equals to 10500. I'm sure most of you by now already know what will be the second equation. It will be 5x plus 3y is equals to 6450. That is it. This is all I want you to learn right now. Just how to form the equation. Okay, moving on to the next question. Okay, here we are talking about taxi charges in a city consist of fixed charges and the remaining depending upon the distance traveled in kilometers. If a person travels 60 kilometers, he has to pay 960, and for traveling 80 kilometers, he has to pay 1260. Okay, so like let us take it to the real example that we know. We always book an Ola or Uber. Okay, so whenever we call an Uber, the taxi fare varies from distance to distance, but a certain part of the expense is fixed. You called it, for the service, you have to pay a fixed kilometer. Okay, fixed charge. So now you understand whether you travel a kilometer or 2 kilometers, that fixed charge will be fixed. You have to pay at least that amount. Plus, depending upon the number of kilometers, you have to pay. Okay, so here what we will do is we will say let the fixed cost be rupees X. Okay, and let the cost per kilometer be rupees Y per kilometer. Is that okay? So, moving on, let's form two equations. Case 1. So, case 1 says a certain person traveled 60 kilometers, so he must have paid the fixed cost because he took that service. Plus, for every kilometer he would be paying y. So, how many kilometers did he travel? 60. So, 60y, and what is the total cost? 960. Similarly, I'm sure now you already know the second case. So, case 2 would be x plus 80y is equals to 1260. I believe this clearly explains what is how the equation is to be formed and what is to be done. Moving on to the next example. Okay, now this case is again similar to the case that we have already done in the case of taxi fare. Again, if you look at hostel cost, Okay, so the cost of a hostel also depends upon a fixed cost and a variable cost. The fixed cost, let's assume, can be the cost of staying there. Okay, so whatever we pay for as rent is the fixed cost. And then variable cost in this question depends upon the number of days the person has eaten the food. So when you don't eat, you don't pay, and you eat, you pay. Okay, so again, let the fixed cost be rupees X. And similarly, the variable cost, that is cost of food per day. So we say, and the cost of food per day is equals to rupees Y per day. Okay, so easy. Now similarly, just use the same logic as the previous question. Form the equation. We will say, what do we have? X plus how many days did he eat? 22 days. So 22 y is equals to 4250. Case 2. What do we have? X plus 28y is equals to 5150. Okay, so we have done both the cases. Okay, moving on to next case. Here, now this is an interesting question. Here it says the monthly income of A and B is in the ratio of 8:7. Okay, let's stick to this part only first. It's given in ratio. Okay, so we need to convert the ratio into something we can solve. So we will do that. Okay, second part, they say their expenditures are in the ratio of 19:16, and then they say each one of them saves 5,000 rupees per month. Now please remember our key point here. Savings equals income minus expense. This is our key point, and without this key point we cannot solve this question. So let's get back to solving the question. So we have the incomes of A and B are in the ratio of 8:7. So we will say let the income of A be rupees 8x. 8:7, so 8x. Similarly, income of B rupees 7x, because 8:7. Okay. Now, similarly, let the expense of A be, I'm sure you are able to guess now, that is 19y. And similarly, of B it will be 16y. Now, using our key point, we will be able to form the equation. So we will say, case 1, we have income, savings is equals to income minus expense. So we will say A, let's talk about A. Okay, so for A, it will be 8x minus 19y, and this should be equal to 5,000. And for B, it would be 7x minus 16y, and that will be equal to 5,000. So again, we are able to form two equations, case 1 and case 2. Case 1 is for A and case 2 is for B. I hope this clears. Next question. Okay. Now this is a question of profit and loss. Just do it as I tell you and it will be very easy for you. Okay. On selling a TV at 5% gain and a fridge at 10% gain, the shopkeeper gains 3250. But if he sells the TV at 10% gain and the fridge at 5% loss, he still gains 1500. Find the actual cost of the TV and that of the fridge. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Let's say let the cost price of TV, B rupees X. I am sure you know what to do next, and we'll say let the cost price of fridge be rupees Y. I hope this is clear and not complicated. Okay, so now we are getting a profit of 3250. 3250. The question is, how did you get 3250? Okay, so how did you get 3250? Now this 3250 is composed of two parts. First is 5% gain and second is 10% gain. Okay, so keeping this in mind, let's understand. 5%, that means 5 upon 100 of what? Of X. And 10%, that means 10 upon 100 of what? Of Y. So 5% of TV and 10% of fridge. I'm sure case 1 is clear to you. Now let's do case 2. I'm sure most of them have already formed this, but please say here is a small catch. This includes 10% gain for TV, that means 10 upon 100 X, and loss. So what do you do with loss? You subtract loss. So 5% of Y. This gives you 1500. Okay, so this is how you're supposed to form the equations. Now moving on to the next question. Now this question is to be done in the same way as we have done the previous question. There is a reason I have kept these questions one after the other, so that you can understand that only the language is changing, but the essence of the question remains same. Okay, so he says a man invested an amount at 12% per annum simple interest and another at 10% per annum simple interest. He received an annual interest of 2600. This is the same as the previous question. Instead of TV and fridge, there are two amounts, amount A and amount B. Okay, so we will say let the amount invested at 12% be rupees X, and similarly at 10% we will call it B rupees Y. So he invested in two amounts, okay, like we put it into the bank, okay, or we invested in mutual funds similarly. So he invested it. Now just like the previous case 1, let us do it quickly. Case 1, what does it say? He got 2600 rupees. Now this 2600 is composed of what? It is composed of 12%. That means 12 upon 100 of X plus 10%, that means 10 upon 100 of Y. Okay, similarly I'm sure you are able to form case 2. So it will be if the amounts were interchanged. If he had interchanged the amounts, he would have received 140 less. So this will be 2600 minus 140. I could have written the answer directly, but for your convenience, I'm writing it like this. So he would invest 10% in X and 12% in Y. Hence, we have the equations. I hope this was not difficult. Please remember, it's a video, but you can pause it and review it as many number of times as you need. Next question. Each of A and B has some money. If A gives 30 to B, then B will have twice the money left with A. Okay. Now this question looks very confusing, but if you look at it from my perspective and solve it as I tell you, it will be always be very easy. Okay. So let's say they are talking about two people, A and B, both of them have some money. So let's say let the amount with A be rupees X, and similarly with B, let it be Y. Okay. So now what is happening? Let's read it and put it into words. Very simple. A gives 30 to B. That means how much does A have? A has X rupees. So X minus 30 because he has given it to B. Okay. So then B will have twice the money left with A. So X will be left with 30 less and B will have 30 more. So X minus 30 is equal to Y minus 30 and they are saying B will have twice the money left with A. That means twice of A, yani 2 into A. Remember, this is A, this is B. Case 1 complete. Okay. Now let's look at case 2. Try to form it. Again, now this time they say if B gives A 10 rupees, let's say we are putting B here only. So B minus 10 because he has given it to A. Then A will have thrice as much. Okay. So X because he is giving 10. Okay. This will have thrice as much as B. Okay. So in case 2, X will have thrice as much as B. Thrice means 3 times of whatever B is left with. And how much is B left with? Y minus 10. So we have formed our two equations. Okay. Next one. The students of a class are made to stand in rows. Now this is an interesting and a complicated question. Many times it goes wrong. Okay, so please pay attention to this question and try to solve it. Okay, the students of a class are made to stand in rows. If 4 students are extra in each row, there would be 2 rows less. If 4 students are less in each row, there would be 4 rows more. Find the number of students. Okay, so it's basically a question based on arrangement. The key point here is that the total number of students in the class remains fixed. All the arrangements that we are doing is with the same number of students. The number of students remains constant. Okay, so you have to remember this part. So let's say let the number of rows be x and the number of students in each row be y. Okay, this is what is most important. Now case 1, simply solving. Okay, can you tell me the total number of students here? Remember, total number of students will be what? Total number of students will be equal to x into y. Now this is the key point. Remember, number of students into number of rows. That is number of students in each row into number of rows. Okay, this is what we are going to do and that is how we are going to form the equation. Now coming back, case 1. They say when there are 4 more students in each row. So 4 number of students is 4 more. That means y plus 4. Okay, and the number of rows is x minus 2. So we have total number of students. That is how much is the total number of students? We just wrote xy. So xy is equals to number of students in each row, that is y plus 4, into number of rows, that is x minus 2. Okay, so total number of students is xy and number of students in each row is 4 more, that is y plus 4, and number of rows is 2 less, that is x minus 2. Similarly, case 2. When 4 students are removed from each row, again total number of students will remain same. So that will be y minus 4 into, now what are they saying? They are saying 4 rows more, that is x plus 4. So y minus 4 into x plus 4. Okay, now moving on to the next question. The sum of two numbers is 1000. The difference between their squares is 256000. A very easy question. I don't think there should be any problem. Let the two numbers be x and y, x being the greater one. Okay, so they say case 1, x plus y is equals to 1000. They say the sum of two numbers is 1000. Difference of their squares, x square minus y square. Difference of their squares, x square minus y square. Remember, x square minus y square. Difference of their squares is equals to 256,000. Done. That is it. Two equations made. Next question. Okay, this is the last question for the day, and there are more story problems that we will be discussing in the next lecture. For now, this is the last. Okay, here the question says if 3 times the larger of the two numbers is divided by the smaller one, we get 4 as the question and 3 as the remainder. Also, if 7 times the smaller one is divided by the bigger one, then we get 5 as the question and 1 as the remainder. Find the numbers. Question is very easy. You can simply use Euclid's division lemma. A is equals to BQ plus R. And if you don't remember that, you always remember. Dividend is equal to divisor into question plus remainder. Okay, so this is our key point here. Now, what is our key point? Dividend is equals to divisor into quotient plus remainder. Dividend is equal to divisor into quotient plus remainder. Okay, now using this, we'll just simply solve the question. So, let the bigger number, so let the bigger number be x. Similarly, we'll say the smaller number will be y. Now, let's just put it into the question. If 3 times the larger of the two numbers, so that means 3x. So that is, we are talking about our dividend. Okay. So if 3 times the larger of the two numbers is divided by the smaller number, that is 0, then we get quotient as 4 and 3 as the remainder. If you will look at it once again, the only thing I did is I simply put the value. So which number is being divided? That makes it my dividend. What is dividing it? That makes it my divisor. What is the question and what is the remainder? Okay, using these I just put. They said 3 times the larger number, that makes it my dividend. Okay. Then what is dividing it? Smaller number. What is the question? 4. And what is the remainder? 3. I hope this is clear. Let's form case 2. Okay, so now we have case 2. They say also if 7 times the smaller number, that means this time my dividend is 7 times the smaller number, that is 7y, is divided by the bigger one. What is the bigger one? That is x. And then what is my question? The question is 5. And what is my remainder? Remainder is 1. So these are my two equations. I hope this helps you to form the equations. You can solve a lot of questions like this. So this will probably help you to form a lot of equations, which is the most important part. Please remember, from board point of view, forming the equation is the most important part. You can get very good at solving, that is very easy. But this is the main part. Okay, thank you and have a nice day.